Hello and welcome back to Wines and Spirits, where we take you on a journey across the haunted plains of good old Blighty in search of Britain's most haunted pub. Now you may ask, why are all the lights out and why am I in night vision? No, it's not to scare you, it's because we haven't paid the electricity bill and all the lights have gone off. Anyway, without further ado, I'm going to take you to the Headless Woman in Cheshire.
My name's Gareth Horton and I'm the licensee. Worked at the pub for about 4 years now. It's an old inn from the 16th century. It was an alehouse before it was an inn, and it's linked very closely with a legend of a local ghost, which is Grace Trigg, and she was a housekeeper at the local hall. During the Civil War, the Roundheads came, took over the house. They were looking for silver and valuables, and she was held up for a few days while they questioned her, and then she refused to give any information and was beheaded as a result of that. And like I say, it's a local legend, and she's supposed to have been around this area.
My name's Ben Jenkins and I'm a barman at the Headless Woman. I've worked at the pub for three and a half years now. There's been sort of 2 sightings of the Headless Woman in the last sort of 3 years that I know of anyway. One was by a waitress who followed a woman home, and as she turned the corner at the bottom of the path, she sort of disappeared. The other one was 2 locals who were outside and had a lady walk towards them, pass by them and then through the wall in the courtyard.
There's a little girl who wears a blue bonnet, apparently, in the pool room. We have George, who's an airman. Also, there's supposed to be a little girl down the passages and the toilets. Again, we're not getting much descriptions of her, but it's just more of a feeling. The most prominent ghost is probably George. We feel his presence a lot more, especially around the bar area. We're not sure whether he was a regular or an ex-landlord, but his presence is more felt, especially by people that know the building. Even the draymen, which have been coming for 20 years plus, every time they come on a Friday morning, they do say hello to George, and it's quite a tradition. A lot of the staff, while they're cleaning up, ask him to move his feet and things like that. So he's quite established ghost, really, George.
Just tell me, how do you actually communicate with a Headless Woman? She can't hear you. Anyway, next I want to take you to Leeds and the Abbey Inn.
My name's Martin Lockett and I'm the landlord here at the Abbey Inn in Newley, Leeds. A small village which we hopefully believe is one of the smallest villages in Europe. I've been here about four and a half years, something like that. This whole area is quite historical. We're called the Abbey, and that's based upon the fact that down the river about a mile is Kirkstall Abbey. The site before us is believed to have possibly been an infirmary for the Abbey, and possibly therefore there may be a tunnel link from the Abbey to us, not to the pub, but to whatever was here beforehand. This building that we're sat in now has a history of apparitions. We apparently have a grey lady who walks from this far corner here, kind of diagonally across the room. Tends to flick out of existence roughly where this wall is here, or where the wall was. Secondly, we have somebody who for a while has been described as sort of like Guy Fawkes, quite a wide-brimmed hat, tall, but then more recently described as a cavalier, and that makes a lot of sense. It was late one night, we'd pretty well shut up shop, and a customer phoned me and said, look, we've been out in Horsford, can we pop in for a quiet drink to finish? So he and a couple of people came in and we were in that room, and he was sat at the bar. And he's looking backwards across the bar and then over to us and back across and over to us. And it's all very jolly, everybody's had a few to drink and it's all very happy and it's a birthday party and everybody's loving it. And this is about 1:30 in the morning. Nobody behind the bar. And I, as I say, I'm sat relative to him as you are to me. And he then looked across the bar and he looked back and he was in floods of tears. And he was wearing a t-shirt, he was quite a dark-haired fellow, very hairy in his arms, and all the hairs had come up on the back of his arms. And he said, there's somebody behind the bar that I know isn't there. And I'd looked as you're looking at me, I was looking in the same direction and I saw nothing. But I can't otherwise account for the sudden change in his mood. And what he said was there was a white-bearded, white-haired, white-shirted gent behind the bar who he knew didn't exist and knew wasn't there. And what was really quite strange at that moment in time was that we'd just buried a customer. We just had a customer die on us. And that was actually quite a good description of the customer. So I got the impression maybe that he'd just sort of come along and said thanks kind of thing, you know, and happened to say it to Andy and not to me.
And now, for our vigil tonight, Stuart and I go to Stockport and the very haunted and very welcoming Grapes.
Licensee of the Grapes Hotel, and my name is Melvin Vickers. I've just worked here just over 2 years. The site it stands on now has always been here as a listed building. It was turned into a public house in 1820. Prior to that, it was a parish church with the ministers officiating from Eton Chapel. Him and his wife came in here, and then they left here, and the pub was turned into a pub in 1820. This particular place is quite heavily haunted. Now, I only know of 2 ghosts here that I've seen, and we've had some mediums here, and they tell me that we have quite a few ghosts here, but I've only seen the 2. Well, the 2 that I have seen, I've nicknamed them Fred and Frida. Fred I first saw after about 2 months of being here, and I was doing my books in the vault at the time, and when he walked past me with a little straw hat on, a black coat and black trousers, about 5'2", and he went into the gents' toilet, and I thought he'd been sleeping under one of the chairs from the night before. I went into the toilet and there's nobody there, so I went down into my cellar, checked my cellar doors, and they were locked. So then I thought, oh, hang on, I'm seeing things here. So I came back up, started doing my books again. But 3 or 4 days later, the same thing happened again, but this time it came from out of the cellar and went into the toilets, gents' toilets. And this happened quite regularly over 6, 7 months. And then it went quiet for a couple of months. And then I was doing my till one morning, about 7:15 in the morning, when all my doors are locked. And I turned round, there's a woman stood in the corner of the bar from where I am now. And she had a floppy hat on, a long grey, what I can describe as a Victorian dress, all buttoned down the front. And I just said to her, who's let you in? And she looked at me, she smiled, and that was it, she was gone. I've not seen her since. But I see one I call Fred fairly regularly every couple of days. I was sceptical at first, but now what I'm experiencing now, I know that there's something there. It doesn't bother me anymore. It's the living that can harm me, not the dead.